All right, good morning, everybody. It's Wednesday. And like Cameron and I were just talking about this morning, I'm seriously considering changing the name of this segment to WTF MSM because, well, everybody getting it wrong, not just
Yeah,
CNN.
yeah, but in
Um,
this case, this morning, I mean, so many WTF CNNs. Like,
yes. Now, obviously, if you saw the thumbnail, the thing we're going to be talking about first is this whole Donald Trump photo op thing. Um, and we'll start with a little bit of hard hitting news from my favorite reputable uh, news source, my favorite reputable paper of record. CNN draws largest crowd in years. Truer statements, my friend. Truer statements. Y'all remember when the Babylon Bee used to be satire? Which, by the way, y'all remember when the Babylon Bee used to be satire? May very well be a new segment that I'm going to start doing. Because just damn.
yeah,
CNN executives were baffled by a large crowd outside their offices and in their lobby Friday, not having seen an audience that size in many years. Execs quickly added the hundreds of people outside their offices to their audience numbers, more than doubling their ratings for the day. Woohoo, it's happening, said the station's co founder, Bob CNN. Brian, Anderson, come quick. We're finally drawing crowds. Years of hard work finally paying off. Peering out the window, Brian Stetler muttered, No, no social distancing or masks, though. But we'll take what we can get at this point. So, okay, obviously, the Babylon Bee is satire. Sort of. And
yeah.
I would reference people like Jordan Peterson and oh god, Jordan Peterson and Joseph Campbell, Kierkegaard. The the idea being that fiction is not untrue. Fiction is non-fact, but it's distilled truth, concentrated truth.
Yeah,
It's
it's, it, well, I mean, that's the thing about satire. Like, what you do is you take something that's true and you push it to such an extreme that it becomes ridiculous. But the
like how we should
ridiculousness
eat
of it,
Catholic Irish babies to stave off potato famines.
that's not exactly the direction I was going to take it. But,
Thank you, Gulliver's Travels.
but anyhow, woo, all the way out there. Okay. But the thing about satire is
Don't mess with me on no books now.
the thing about satire is you gotta you gotta start with the element of truth. Otherwise, pushing the ridiculous nature of that truth to its extreme doesn't make the point that you're trying to make. It's the old saw about um, jokes are only funny if they've got a hint of truth somewhere in the joke.
And outside of puns, all comedy relies to some degree or another on pain. Um, I think one of my favorite jokes now is it's the picture of Stalin and it says dark humor is like food, not everybody gets it.
Okay, so just real quick, good morning, Bruno. Good morning, Drew. Good morning, John. Happy to have you folks. Please share the stream. We're
and just this last note before we get tucked into the articles that we're actually talking about this morning. Um, as far as CNN and its draws and its ratings, y'all, CNN is hurting right now. Their ratings are in the toilet because all the airports are shut down and people are afraid to go to the hospital and the dentist office. So when CNN's audience stays home, guess what they don't do? They don't watch CNN.
I can honestly say, because I do commercial pest control, I go into multifamily units, and there's a lot of people at home, and a lot of them are, in fact, watching the news. And the Republicans are watching Fox News, and the Democrats are watching MSNBC. I literally only see somebody have CNN on once or twice a week. Like, they're just, oh, well,
Keep talking,
then,
Cameron. I'll deal with the comments in the comments section.
oh, okay, fair enough. So, yeah, as far as people watching CNN, like, it's, it really is like you say. So, what happens if people aren't flying and they're not seeing CNN at the airport? They're not seeing CNN. And of course, it's because they're trash, which is why this segment has been WTF CNN for a little better than a year now, right? We've been doing the new format for a little more than a year.
Remember when we were about this time last year agonizing over which segments to do every morning and whether, you know, and the plan was we're just going to go live for 10 or 15 minutes every morning. Well, how's that worked out?
Well, for the most part, we managed to stick to it. But then 2020's been, oh, that's right, it's an election year. There we go. That's what happened. Okay, so between Anderson Cooper's race baiting, the entire
It's
mainstream
okay,
media
guys. He
getting
wasn't paying attention. He missed it.
So between Anderson Cooper's race baiting, the MSM getting the entire thing about Trump's church walk wrong, and a little bit of Mayor Black Girl magic thrown in for flavor, where do you want to start here, buddy?
Let's start with talking about CNN because that is the segment title, right?
Right.
So CNN: peaceful protesters near White House gassed so Trump can get church photo op. Tim Pool's talked about this a little bit, the framing device. Now, to be clear, this is Flag and Cross, In God We Trust. So obviously a, shall we say, more conservative outlet. And I pulled this article, which is an article about the CNN article, because guess what? CNN article's not on their page anymore. And rather than slog through the what you call her archive.today, here we go. We just got a little conversation about it here. So the article that CNN ran, here's a screenshot from the channel. Peaceful protesters near White House gassed, shot with rubber bullets so Trump can have church photo op. Okay. Here's what we know to have happened. Canisters of A gas were used on protesters. And this is a quite separate fact that happens to have occurred at the same time. Trump went across the street from the White House to St. John's Church to do the photo op. But here's the thing. When Trump went across the street to the church, y'all tracking, he was in the Rose Garden. He was in the Rose Garden giving a press conference. He finished it. And he finished it on, now I have something like, I have some important work to take care of right now. And he just turned around and walked away. Like he did basically a mic drop moment, just turned around and walked away. Go back and watch the end of that press conference where he says, I've got to go handle some business, and turns around and walks away. Everybody was surprised. Right? It looks pretty clear that nobody knew he was planning on doing this. And I'm sorry, I should have pulled up a photo from that to really make the point. But
Let me
he
just
just turned around and walked out the front door of the White House. And like Ben Shapiro pointed out yesterday, I bet a lot of y'all didn't even think that door opened because it's never used. He literally just walked out the front door and walked across the street.
let me just tag that real quick because this is something that has sort of stuck in my craw ever since this happened. Once the riots started happening and Secret Service had to be called in to erect temporary barricades, and the White House had to turn off the lights, and the president hid in the bunker, which are valid responses. Like if Obama was still president and there were riots in DC and Obama hid in the bunker, just because I think Obama is a socialist piece of shit doesn't mean I wouldn't understand why the president of the United States would do what a president do. However, the media that came out has had two basic flavors. Trump's a sissy, Trump's a pussy, Trump's hiding from, oh man, the racism that he created. Oh, and now he's going to hide. And who else hides in bunkers while they tear gas their
That
own people?
racism that Trump created. Trayvon looks like my son if I would have had one.
Right, right. So, and the other flavor of the criticism of Donald Trump goes something like this. Oh, gee, who hides in a bunker while their own people are getting gassed? Saddam Hussein, Joseph Stalin, Adolf Hitler, and now Donald Trump. So you call Trump a tyrant and a sissy, and then Trump goes, oh yeah? Watch this.
And
Hold
yeah,
my beer.
he just walked out the door and crossed the street, and I'm not seeing the pictures. Gee, I wonder why. Um,
John,
he just walked out the door across the street, and everybody's walking behind him. He's out in front of everybody. The Secret Service, everybody is behind him. That's because they didn't know he was going to do it, so he just started walking, and everybody's trying to play catch up. And President Trump is nearly as big as I am. The man's got a walking gait. He starts to walking. He's fucking walking.
John Bowman says, where's the craw? You know, that's a good question. Picture getting sand stuck in it and it being very uncomfortable, and that's your craw. Oh. Anyhow. But yeah, this was, you want to call this a photo op, that's fair. You want to call this a power move, that's fair. But you want to turn this into something where Trump is evil, horrible, and nasty. Well, that's not fair. And if you want to say, well, why would Trump do this? Well, it's pretty simple, because ever since all this started, all the blame has been laid at his feet. And he hasn't just been blamed for it, he's been insulted. He's been called all these nasty names, accused of all this racism. So Trump did what Trump does. Ever since the beginning of his presidential campaign, when everybody else was going to go right, Trump was like, I'll go left. And it's part of what got him the job of the presidency. You can love Trump, you can hate Trump, but this is classic. This is classic Trump. Gee, what's the narrative? Okay, I'm going to do the opposite of the narrative, and it's going to be the best opposite, the most huge opposite you've ever seen. And then he goes and does it.
It's all right, Cameron. Keep rolling. We got a couple of Biden trolls in the comments there. So
hey, let me just say, seriously, love you guys. The more you post in our thread, the more engagement you give us. Keep boosting our algorithm. YouTube doesn't want it to happen, so you
know
folks,
the thing.
The thing.
You know the thing.
Yeah.
So
if Biden's president, I mean, how many times a day are they going to have to remind him he's president?
Well, and it's like I've pointed out several times where people talk about the hypocrisy of being concerned with the Me Too movement and whatnot, where Biden's concerned. But that's really not all that hard. Trump has been unfaithful in his marriages. I would prefer he had been faithful in his marriages, but quite simply, if you're going to use the transgressions of Donald Trump as a defense for the crimes of Joe Biden, then you're slut shaming. Because the truth of the matter is, Joe Biden is apparently a rapist. Allegedly. Joe Biden is allegedly a rapist, whereas Donald Trump is avowedly a slut. So, y'all go on with your Me Too's and your slut shaming, and, well, maybe somebody will pound you too. Moving on.
Oh, yes, yes. So moving on. But long story short, the whole narrative about, oh my God.
Actually, no. Let me back that up. Let me back up
Please,
just a
go
little
ahead.
bit. Also, let me point out and it's amusing that we're not hearing this piece of the conversation. These race riots are terrible for Biden. They're only good for Trump because they're terrible for Biden. Because let's not forget, we're talking about riots over the argument, fallacious though it may be, the argument that black Americans are policed disproportionately and more brutally than white Americans. And your candidate is Joe Biden?
Oh yeah, the guy that was part of the whole super predator thing from the Clinton era, and go look it up. Hillary Clinton says super predator, and listen to
So
the
did
entire.
Biden.
Yeah, that's right. You're correct. I remember Hillary because
it was a big deal in the Hillary campaign too. But yeah, these to any extent that you think that the police are disproportionately hard on blacks in America, you can lay that squarely at the feet of the Clintons and Joe Biden.
Yeah,
and Barrio didn't do him any favors.
No, he didn't. But he gave a good speech, as long as the teleprompter was on. Let me be clear. About as clear as mud, oh bummer. About as clear as mud. So yeah, not only did CNN fail on this one, all of mainstream media failed on this one. And look, just going back to our thumbnail, I don't actually want CNN burned or vandalized or whatever. If they want to continue to be a beacon of what utter bullshit mainstream journalism is, please, by all means, you'll give us content for Wednesday morning for the rest of our lives. Y'all go right ahead.
Yeah, no doubt. So let's talk about let's get to that for a minute. Let's talk about the CNN, the defacing of the CNN property. Okay, obviously, you've got a bunch of black activists here. Looks like you got one white boy here with Daddy's DSLR that looks like a. That looks like it might be actually be a Canon 60D from that LED screen on the right side of. That's a decent little. Anyway, of course that means that you spent $3,000 on a camera that doesn't even have 4K resolution. But what do I know?
A little bit.
Anywho, okay, so you got the Black Lives Matter flag, you got the Mexican flag. That's adorable. And then the graffiti here. Fuck Trump, no cops. Oh, there it is. Sorry, guys. I had to break the seal.
First F-bomb of the day, brought to you by the Brushfire Mind. We love you.
Oh! Anyway. They're protesting against Trump and all this, and they're attacking CNN. I think we're confused, guys.
I'm not. I know what Schadenfreude feels like.
I mean, somehow you have missed the irony that the entire narrative, the entire fallacious, erroneous narrative of disproportionate black policing has been spearheaded by the Chinese Communist News Network, CNN, and their sister channels like MSNBC they have been leading you by the nose down a path of destruction for Decades. Decayeds.
Yeah, and a part of me gets the chuckle. I do. It's like, oh, gee, maybe the Bible's right about a few things.
Now,
You do, in
you aren't
fact,
tracking
reap
why
what
they...
you sow.
No, Cameron, you're tracking why they attacked the CNN building in downtown Atlanta, right?
I mean, if there's an additional reason, then no, I guess not.
There's a police precinct in the building.
Ah.
See, remember when we were there to cover Trump as the BFM with like 13 subscribers, but we were official White House press pool, and we entered the building all wearing pistols, which we had to go back and put in the truck. Oh yeah, you didn't go through Secret Service with me. I had to go stick my pistol back in the truck for a little while so I could go through Secret Service and shoot the footage of the president speaking with Reince Priebus and a few other people, and that was a hell of an experience. I've still got some footage from that, and I ain't gonna lie. Okay, so that was several years ago, and I had not actually opened. We hadn't started a film business at that point. I had barely started film school at that point, and I had a nice DSLR that I borrowed from my mama. And I got out there and I set it up, and I realized I don't know how to operate this camera. It turns out a good camera is not an easy thing to operate. It's a thing you have to learn.
Yeah.
Who knew? I didn't.
Yeah.
Now I do.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say that our camera skills have improved since then.
Oh yeah, y'all about to see some shit this year.
But I think this is a good moment. We can segue over onto our very specific example of how CNN stokes these racial tensions.
Oh, which one is that?
That would be Mr. Anderson Cooper. It's normally Don Lemon or commie Chris Cuomo, but Anderson Cooper, good Lord, I just, whoo.
Okay. Uh-oh. I need to change one little thingy real quick.
Okay, I'm going to just run through some of this. Let's see.
Nope, shut up.
Law and order. The killing of George Floyd, Eric Garner, the torture of Abner Louima, that's not law and order. The president seems to think that dominating black people, dominating peaceful protesters is law and order. It's not. He calls them thugs. Who is the thug here? Hiding in a bunker? Hiding behind a suit? Who is the thug? People have waited for days for this wannabe wartime president to say something. And this is what he says, and that is what he does. I've seen societies fall apart as a reporter. I've seen people dying in the streets while protesting. I've seen countries ripped apart by hate and misinformation and lies and political demagogues and racism. We can't let that happen here. Of course, violence is no answer, but people protesting deserve answers, and they haven't gotten them, no matter how many black men have been murdered, lynched, imprisoned, mistreated, redlined, blackballed from jobs. We all know it. People protesting in the streets, they know it, and they're tired of it.
Okay, stop. I'm reaching my bullshit quotient. Stop.
That's all
stop.
I can take. Okay, yeah, the peaceful protesters. They found some pictures that weren't these guys, apparently. Oh. That weren't these guys. That weren't these guys. Smashing windows. Right? You got...
It's a very, very bad thing that I saw. I saw it last night, and I didn't like it.
I mean, yeah, Anderson, nothing to see here. Move along.
Well, in particular, not only did he hit so many of those hot buttons, like he managed to work lynching into that little, I'll be nice and call it a soliloquy. But not only did he manage to just like
you don't want to just go straight for bitch fit.
Okay, all right. Whew. Okay, if you were trying to practice keyword stuffing, that little minute of video right there would be keyword
Yeah, it sounds
stuffing.
like it was written by an by a search engine optimization outrage clickbait generator.
But the very beginning of it,
which is to say, not a person. It was written by an algorithmic generator designed to generate maximum outrage. Okay, so sorry, Karen. Let me just tap back on this. There's a theory of the development of social justice that includes the beginning of the social justice intersectionality period being one in which on social media, all of the large mainstream media outlets. Ooh, yeah. Let me get. Yeah.
One day I'm going to get ballsy and drink it right out of the pot, and then we're not going to be able to go on air for 3 or 4 days.
You missed again. Anyway, on social media, the your CNNs, your MSNBCs, your various outlets, they would run these headlines. They would run clickbait headlines, and the algorithm would say, "Oh, hey, if you run if you run a headline about black people, people click on that a lot. Oh, if you run an outlet about gay people, people click on that a lot. Oh, if you run an outlet about trans people, they click on that a lot. If you run a headline about women, people click on that a lot. If you run a headline where somebody got hurt, people click on that a lot. If you run the word hate, people click on that a lot. So if you run the headline, police hate black, gay, trans women, people click on that an extra lot. And
yeah,
so basically what happened is malicious artificial intelligence. Well, okay, no. The artificial intelligence itself wasn't malicious, but its purpose essentially was to maximize outrage so that people would click on headlines so that Fox News and MSNBC and Vox and all of those could make billions of dollars writ large by lying to you about the hate in the world and pretending like there's more and more of it.
So I'm going to go back to the point that I was going to make, and I'm going to springboard off something Drew Daniel says in the comments, and I'm actually going to use it to make a point and respectfully disagree with you, Drew. Drew says, I will say this, Cameron, because Chris and I had a conversation about Trump and multiple things. My opinion of Mr. Trump is different, and that's putting it nicely. They're protesting Trump because Trump is very divisive. And I am going to say that it is not actually Donald Trump that is divisive. It is the perception of Donald Trump that is divisive. I forget the exact quote, but it goes something to the effect of, when all you've ever been fed is lies, the truth is very bitter. And I'm not saying that Donald Trump always tells the truth. Donald Trump is a bullshit artist, very similar to the way that a used car salesman is a bullshit artist. But the things that Trump touches on have a deep layer of truth underlying them. When he started talking about the wall, when he started talking about the failure of Obamacare, he used hyperbolic language to describe these things. But what he tapped into was the fact that people like me, before Obamacare was passed, hey, okay, my healthcare was expensive. And then my premiums doubled and my deductibles tripled. Look, if you have a $10,000 healthcare deductible under our current healthcare model, you don't actually have healthcare unless you get into a car crash and need emergency surgery. If you gave me all my money back and I just spent it going to the doctor when I needed to go to the doctor, I would actually come away at the end of the year with more money in my pocket. Donald Trump is not the divisive one. Anderson Cooper is the divisive one. Because let's go back to that dominates comment, because that's real key here. Because what Anderson Cooper said in his, well, fine, bitch fit, was
that's right,
was that Donald Trump wants to dominate black people. If you go back and you understand the full quotes that came from both Donald Trump and Bill Barr in context, yes, they used language that included police dominating the streets. but they meant it in actual context of law and order. This is not just puffery from Trump.
And
when you've
and real quick, the immediate rebuttal to the statement that you just made, they meant it in the context of. If that is the rebuttal that you will use to defend the claim made by Anderson Cooper, if the rebuttal that you will use is that when you say they meant it in the context of dominating the streets and controlling crime, you're assuming motive. Yes, based on the language used. And when you say that what he meant was to dominate black people, you are assuming motive based exclusively on what you want him to have meant, without the use of any related context. Because, well, you're a liar. If you make the statement that Donald Trump meant X, and you don't have any additional context to back that up with, you're a liar. And before you go on and point to additional context, let's just take a moment and ask ourselves the question, is the additional context you're going to point to things like, he said there were fine people on both sides, and that tells us that he supports racists and neo-Nazis. Okay, well, if you want to point to that, then you're a liar. Because he didn't say that. And if you don't know that, you're either a liar or you're an idiot. You're just uninformed. You've decided to swallow the commentary and just take it as is without any incidental research. You want to point back to all Mexicans are rapists. You're a liar. Go read the transcript. It's not what he said. I know it's what they told you he said, but quite frankly, if you're pointing to statements like that, if you're pointing to claimed statements like that, guess what? You're the people that thought Tina Fey was Sarah Palin.
Drew points out in the comments that I combined two of his comments together, and you are correct. I did, but I was trying to reach for a truth, and that truth is Donald Trump is habitually taken out of context, and even going all the way back to the first speech he ever gave when he came down the escalator. What the majority of us heard from CNN and its ilk is that Donald Trump said Mexicans are rapists. And if you go back and you listen to the whole thing, that's not actually what he said at all. He made a very reasonable assertion that was something to the effect of, if you've got criminals crossing the border, a lot of them are going to be thugs and rapists. And, well, you can't even argue with that. That's just a fact. Crime begets crime. And so, you flash forward to this point here where the country's on a knife's edge. We're all freaking out because we're at some 40 million people have filed first-time unemployment over the past 7 weeks. And I mean, we're talking about somewhere around a quarter of the eligible workforce is temporarily or permanently out of work. Everybody's been locked up in their house, and we've been fishing for a race war narrative. And the Ahmaud Arbery, that one just didn't quite cut it. But then you find some video that's really, really, really ugly. Oh, white cop kneels on black man's neck. Yes, it is party on the yacht time, people.
Oh, Mr. Super Pattig. Okay. You're adorable there, sweetheart. Trump said he could replace the Fed chair. Lie. Trump said he could postpone elections. Lie. Okay. Give me some sourcing on that. And frankly, if you don't like the show, don't watch it.
Or
if you want to keep watching, keep commenting, keep trolling, have fun with it. But
yeah, we can help smarten you up, and we're not twisting anything around. What you don't understand, Miss Super whatever, Mr. Super. That's what I'm going to call you, just to make this simple.
How about Mrs. Upper?
That's also funny.
Yeah, Mrs. Upper.
Okay, Mrs. Upper. If you think what we're doing is we're twisting the narrative to defending, no, I'll go back to my original statement. if all you've ever been fed is lies, the truth is very bitter when it's finally put on your tongue. And it is the media that twists Trump out of context. You rewind the clock 10 years, and a lot of these people that hate Trump love Trump. Sure, Snoop Dogg will make a rap video where he shoots a guy that looks like Donald Trump, and that's all supposed to be art. But you
Kathy
rewind the
Griffin will
clock.
chop his head off. They'll defend putting on a play where they stab him in the back as Julius Caesar, Donald the Kaiser. Okay, that's just art.
But it's not me twisting the narrative. It's guys like Anderson Cooper twisting the narrative. We are untwisting the narrative. And let me be really clear. I'm not defending Donald Trump per se. I am defending the truth of the matter. At some point in time, we have to agree that 2 plus 2 does indeed equal 4 every single time you run the equation. Part of the reason why Chris and I jumped on this narrative the way that we have jumped on this narrative is very nearly without exception. As soon as you hear the story, black man didn't do nothing and white man bad killed him, you can immediately throw that headline away. Because even if the final analysis actually has the white man doing something wrong, the whole black man didn't do nothing is just false. With regard to George Floyd, and we had a commenter yesterday that said that the bill that he tried to pass was actually genuine and not fake. That's possible. We haven't been able to verify that one way or another.
I haven't seen any source on that claim, but
No. Okay, Mrs. Super, again, you did in fact say twisting the narrative, but I'm not the one twisting the narrative. I'm the one who takes the time to go listen to the entire clip with all the context included on YouTube. You go back and you listen to Donald Trump's speech where he announced he was going to run for president, and he did not call all Mexicans rapists. He didn't even come close to calling all Mexicans rapists. And this has been think, for years we heard about this Russia narrative. That's bullshit. And then more recently, we've heard this narrative that Donald Trump failed us with the COVID situation. But Donald Trump also restricted travel to China while he was in the middle of his impeachment that was all built off of a bullshit narrative. And he was actually called racist then. Donald Trump has been called racist for his entire presidency. You want to say that he's a liar and he's a cheater.
but never before that.
Yeah, but you want to say that he's a liar and a cheater? Sure. Absolutely. But what I am defending are the facts on the ground. And the facts on the ground are pretty simple. Every single time you unwind one of these narratives, you find out that it's either absolutely 100% false. But what happens more frequently in my experience is there's this gray area. And if you choose to look at that gray area as more black than white, you can come away with the black interpretation. And if you choose to look at that narrative as more white than black, you can come away with the white interpretation. And very few people are prepared to engage in that gray area, which frequently is where the truth lies. You don't like the way that we analyze this? Well, gosh, I'm sorry. But I mean, between the two of us, we've read a lot of books. It's part of what we do. Yeah. So, anyhow, Mrs. Super, love you. But we're going to keep right on rolling because we've got a third piece that we want to get to.
Did we?
Yeah, Mayor Black Girl Magic.
Oh, Mayor Black Girl Magic. That's right. Let me show you a little something here. I'm not going to play her whole speech because we're already running late into the show. But
you're not going to out-concern me and out-care about where we are in America.
I care more than everybody else. You can't out-care me.
Now, to be clear, as far as this speech is concerned, I do think she's legitimately emotional. I think she actually struck the right tone here, coming out and giving a very raw statement to the press.
And there's a good chance that she's starting to realize that her open, virulent racism has helped to fuel these fires, and that she bears some responsibility for, not for the death of George Floyd, but for the ensuing riots.
Yeah, so
I wear this each and every.
Now, have you got the other clip?
Which one?
I thought I sent you two with her. One was the lynching clip. One was this one.
Oh, okay. So she hit the right chord in this speech. Well, I was going to play a little more of the speech. Jesus, man.
Every day, and I pray over my children each and every day. So what I see happening on the streets of Atlanta is not Atlanta. This is not a protest. This is not in the spirit of Martin Luther King Jr. This is chaos. A protest has purpose. When Dr. King was assassinated, we didn't do this to our city. So if you love this city that has had a legacy of black mayors and black police chiefs and people who care about this city, where more than 50% of the business owners in Metro Atlanta are minority business owners. If you care about this city, then go home and pray that somebody like Reverend Beasley will come and talk to you and give you some instructions on what a protest should look like and how you effectuate change in America. This police chief made a video on yesterday, pull it up on YouTube, where she said she was appalled to watch the murder of George Floyd. This woman did that. You're not honoring the legacy of Martin
Okay, that's enough. Well, no,
Luther
I want to hear
King
that.
Jr. and the civil rights movement. You're not protesting anything running out with brown liquor in your hands, breaking windows in this city.
Woo, shots fired.
Shots fired. Absolutely. And she struck the right chord there. Now, let me see if I've got that other clip real quick.
I'm going to respond to Drew real quick. Drew, buddy, I do not imply things. I say them. I am 100% a Trump supporter. I'm just pointing out for the context of our show that revolves around kind of an intersection of entertainment, facts, current events, and philosophy. In this case, and in the vast majority of cases, we're actually trying to get to the truth of the matter. So when I say that I'm not defending Donald Trump per se, I'm trying to go after the truth. I mean that statement very literally. That can be true, and I can still 100% be planning on voting for Trump in November, which I am, because even if I was inclined to vote Democrat, I just don't know that I could bring myself to vote for somebody that's showing obvious signs of dementia. Like, that's the guy you want to give the
real
nuclear
quick.
codes to.
Joe Biden's about to be 80 years old, and obvious. I keep hearing people talk about the possibility of him having early onset dementia. I think I've said this on the show before. The man's an octogenarian. It's not early onset. He's fucking old.
It's normal dementia.
It's early onset is when you get it in your
in your, like,
maybe
your 40s.
If he were 70, I might give you early onset. Right? But the man's the man's closer to 100 than he's not. He's more than 3/4 of the way there. That's a bunch. If you've got 75 cents in your pocket and you need $1 for the cigarette machine, you don't have to do a lot more begging. You're there.
Seen that video. I don't believe that they will be charged, and it is it's heartbreaking. It's 2020, and this was a lynching of an African American man, and I think that my heart goes out to his family, but I think again it's a part of this bigger issue that we are having in this country. I think, have we not seen that?
Okay,
Okay,
this was
so
just 3 weeks ago.
yep.
And you know what's funny? Compare that to the speech she gave last weekend. One of those appeared to have genuine emotion in it. And I'll give you a clue. It's probably not the one where she used the word lynching, and probably is the one where she said brown liquor. Oh my God, how racist would you and I be if we made that exact same comment, Chris? Like, good Lord. I can't. I just can't. Oh.
And they said that Arbery was lynched. What does a lynching look like? Does it maybe look like that? Because make no mistake, what these people in this image are calling for is a retaliation against the McMichael McMichael family.
Oh, there, sugar. You might know something. I don't if they're brothers.
Mrs. Upertang says early stage dementia versus late stage syphilis. That's an interesting take. That's a great little hot take there, Super Tang.
That is pretty funny. Credit where it's due. That's funny.
And I mean, you spend enough time randomly raping bitches in the political circles, and I guess you are prone to pick up some syphilis. So. But here's the thing about, so Mayor Bottoms, do you not feel some responsibility for your divisive rhetoric? You've spent your entire term as mayor complaining that the president is a racist. If you're constantly complaining that other people are X, if you're constantly assigning motive to people without evidence, and you claim that their rhetoric causes people to take actions, how can you unironically try and assume that your rhetoric does not also influence activities? So
it's like you said to open this whole thing up.
So if your claim is that the rhetoric of Donald Trump causes racism to exist in America or exacerbates the existence in America, you cannot make that claim without also claiming, if you're going to be at all intellectually or philosophically consistent or honest, you cannot claim that Donald Trump's rhetoric contributed to anything that is occurring today without also accepting that you bear the responsibility for it on your divisive rhetoric as well. Your rhetoric, if Donald Trump's is causal, then so must yours be.
Yeah, I've said it before, and I will say it again. If you keep teaching black people that they need to be scared of the cops, they are going to continue to be afraid of the cops. And these sorts of awful things are going to continue to happen. Nobody wanted.
If you continue treating black boys as if you operating under the assumption that the normal course of behavior for young boys, generally without regard to ethnicity, is that they commit recreational felonies up to and including recreational gang initiation murder. If you keep treating young black men like they just do that, like that's just a normal thing they do, and that part of growing up is not never being a recreational felon, but rather just putting the recreational felonies behind you when you're old enough to be prosecuted at 18, then this is going to continue. When you look at the Ahmaud Arbery case, his felony records began before he was 18. And then, of course, just like Cameron was saying earlier, every time you see one of these cases, pull up Facebook right now. I would be shocked if you could make it past 5 or 10 posts without seeing the statement, this innocent man didn't deserve to die. Okay, I can agree that he did not deserve to die. That's fair. But to say that an innocent man died, no. You're talking about a drug user, a drug addict, a repeat felon, a repeat violent felon. And we have the police report claiming that he attempted to resist arrest. A large man with drugs in his system. We now see from the autopsies that those drugs likely included fentanyl and methamphetamine. So I was wrong when I said crack. We just assumed crack before because these cases almost always involve drugs, and he had a history of crack from the reporting. But now it looks like it was fentanyl and meth. You get a large man hopped up on drugs, guys, good luck. You grab a hold to that bull and you are taking a ride.
Yeah, grab a tiger by the tail. Better be prepared to never let go.
Yeah, grab a fat man by the neck and see if he doesn't just flop over backward on top of you.
And Drew, real quick, appreciate it, man. Keep us honest. Please do. Say it before, say it again. Rather be wrong on air. That way we all get to learn something together. And then just real quick, button it all up because we're
gonna have to button
the
it up.
hour.
I've got a meeting to get to in about 15 minutes.
Just to say it, if you blacked out your profile picture yesterday, God, you're the sheep. I mean, seriously, Alex McDonald, I think, just freaking nailed it yesterday. Our buddy over at Polytech. He put on Facebook, and I can't quote it exactly, but I'll get the flavor correct. He didn't black out his profile picture because he actually marched with the protesters. If you blacked out your profile picture, you did nothing. All you did was show everybody else in social media that you care, that you're one of those people that gets it. And just go ahead and make me puke. Like, seriously. You want to do something? Take action. Action is not hashtag free our girls. Because how well did that work? Did any of those girls actually get freed by a hashtag? Or was it men with guns prepared to do evil things in the service of good?
Not evil.
I'm sorry, I'm just trying to go as far as I can with
You may sleep peaceably in your beds at night because rough men stand ready to do violence on your behalf.
Thank you.
And I miss doing violence on your behalf. Anyway.
But seriously, WTF CNN, WTF Anderson, Cooper, like.
Now I'll say, I want to say this before we go off the air. I didn't black out my profile, not going to, obviously, and I didn't go march with the protesters. I might, if there's still some stuff going on later today and I've got time, I might try to get over there with a camera for a minute. Probably not. I've got a lot of shit on my plate right now. But I will not be marching with the protesters because they do not have a legitimate grievance to protest. At no level do the protesters have a legitimate grievance for protestation. And then I'll leave it here. We touched on it a little bit yesterday. Yes, you have the right to assemble peacefully. Yes, some of the protesters have assembled to protest peacefully. Yes, you have the freedom to speak. And absolutely, you have the freedom to be wrong. So if you want to form a protest, a peaceful protest, and go out there and be visibly and vocally wrong, that's fine. You have that right. You absolutely have that right. You also have the right to petition the government for redress of grievances. You should try that. You won't, because you know damn well that you do not have a legitimate grievance for which redress can be offered. You're damn liars, and you should pack up your shit and go home and stop burning down my country.
Wow. That wasn't a bad ending there, buddy.
Yeah, it just kind of